Okay, so we are working on leading skills, or in Nova's case, lack thereof. I see a lot of people struggling with training their horses with positive reinforcement because they can't get their horse from where it is to the training location. So some people are bringing their horses out from pasture, or maybe they have their horse in the stall and they want to go to the arena to train, but they struggle with getting their horse from the stall or the pasture to the arena. So I just want to clarify something about that. Your training doesn't start at your training session. Your training starts the second that you come into contact with your animal. So if you're getting your horse from their stall, your training starts at their stall, okay? So if you're struggling to get your horse out of their stall, that's your training session. Your training session is working through that first. Once you can halter your horse and you can clip a lead line on and you can safely lead them out of their stall and lead them to the training location, then you can begin training whatever it is that you wanted to train in the training location. But first you have to train your horse to be able to leave their stall or pasture and walk safely to the training location. So Nova here, we're going to walk up and down here so that you can see, you're going to give you a baseline behavior so that you can see what Nova's challenges are. And yeah, here we go. Ready, Nova? Okay, so as you can see, Nova definitely has some issues with leading. It's not really normal to walk with your horse walking sideways next to you, unless you're working on a side pass or a half pass or something, which clearly we weren't. So, yeah, now we have to fix that. So the first thing that you might have noticed when I walked out and back with Nova is she actually does a little bit better when I'm on this side instead of the other side. So although that's more challenging for me because I'm used to being on the other side, I am going to work with her on this side to set her up for success. So since she finds it easier for me to be on this side of her, that's where I'm going to begin working on leading so that she's more likely to be successful. So are you ready, Nova? So one of the first things you want to think about when you're leading your horse is a lot of times people will walk off with their horse. Here, Nova, can you back up, baby? Can you back up? So a lot of times what I see happen is sometimes people want to walk out to the end of the lead rope and they want their horse to stay, while other times they want to walk and they want their horse to go with them. And what will happen is they'll be standing, maybe chatting with somebody or doing something, and then they'll just suddenly walk off. And they hit the end of the lead and they get mad because the horse is still standing still. So here's a really important thing to remember about horses. As much as it may sometimes seem like they can't actually read your mind. That's a fact, okay? Your horse cannot read your mind. They do not know unless you give them some indication that you want them to walk with you. They don't actually know that you want them to walk with you. So you do want to let your horse know if you're going to walk off, that you are walking and that you want them to go with. So when you start, now Nova here is very sensitive. If I move slightly, she moves with me, but lots of horses aren't. So you want to make sure that your horse is engaged, okay? So right now she's looking over there, she's not paying attention to me. I want to make sure she's paying attention to me, and then I can indicate that we're going to move forward. Okay, so I'm going to use a clicker just for the sake of the audio so that you can actually hear what I'm marking. Be aware that there might be a slight delay between the time that the sound leaves me here to the time it reaches you there. So if it seems like I'm clicking a little bit late, that might be why. I also could very well be clicking a little bit late because human, not perfect. Yeah, you get it. So, very first step in leading your horse, successful leading, the very first thing that I'm going to reinforce is not the very first step. Okay? The very first step that I'm going to click is just a weight shift forward. That is all I'm looking for. So, when I give her an indication we're going to move forward, and she starts to move, I'm going to click for the weight shift. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to try to show you why I'm starting with just a weight shift forward. I want you to see what happens if I try to go too far too fast, okay? So I'm going to let Nova know that we're walking forward. And I marked, but you see how her butt's starting to move out that way? And we're losing the position that I want her to lead in. And she's dropping back into her habit of swinging her butt out and walking sideways. So you can see that the second step is much, much worse. So as you could see, if I ask for a step or two with Nova, she very quickly goes back to her habit of swinging her butt out to the side and walking sideways. And I want to be very, very clear with her and help her to understand that the position is this, right next to me, shoulder to shoulder or neck to shoulder, facing forward in this position. So I'm only going to ask for as much as I know that she can definitely give me, okay? Okay, so again, I can do a little bit more on this side than I can on the other side. So if I'm on this side of Nova, she's a little bit more successful. So we're going from weight shift forward to maybe a step forward. And when I stop to reinforce her, so if I'm in this position leading, when I stop to reinforce her, I'm actually going to pivot so that I'm facing her and I'm going to feed her right here. Because I don't want her to break position. I want her to stay in this position. This is the position that I want her leading in. So I want to make sure I reinforce her in that position as well. If I reinforce her here, she's going to curve her head around and she's going to cut me off. So since that's not what I want to make sure that I reinforce her out here. Okay? You ready? Good girl. So that is basically one very, very successful leading session where Nova was able to stay with me, shoulder to shoulder the way I want her to, facing forward, not turning her butt out, not walking super fast, cutting me off, trying to nip at me, nothing. Just very nice walking, face forward, nice smooth movement, no issues. That's a really successful session, so that's where I'm going to stop. I don't want to overwhelm her or ask for too much. I'd rather leave off when we're doing really well. So I'm going to go ahead and put her away for a little while and then come back and do more later. So just a side note so that you know, if things are going really poorly, go ahead and stop and put your horse away as well. You don't have to end on a good note. It's nice to, but if things are going poorly and you keep going over it and over it and over it, basically you're practicing poor behavior. And your horse is becoming very good at that poor behavior. So if things are not going well, stop immediately, put your horse away, reevaluate, rethink how you want to do your training session, and then try again a little bit later. So we're going to give Nova a break and come back a little bit later. Good girl, Nova.